Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is an audio engineer with over 15 years recording music and over 5 years producing podcasts. No other than Mr. Colin Casserd.
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Colin, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, so once again, my name's Colin. I have been producing and recording music for over 15 years. I started out just recording artists in my closet as well as myself, set up my own little semi-professional studio in the closet, and was recording artist vocals. I started my own music studio recording space in Bellingham, Washington, and did that for a little bit. And then I ended up moving to Portland, Oregon in order to pursue a audio engineering internship. And so that's why I moved down here to Portland originally. And that internship ended up falling through. And, you know, the studio closed, unfortunately, pretty briefly after I moved down here. So I kind of was left trying to figure out what to do. And so I decided to pivot into kitchens. When I was living in Bellingham, besides doing the music, my day job was always working in a kitchen as a prep cook and doing various things like that. And so Portland has a fairly big restaurant scene here. And so I launched into that and worked for a multitude of different restaurants, kind of trying to find one that I enjoyed and work my way up. I got involved in the beginning of a restaurant here in Portland called Super Deluxe. And it is a burger restaurant. And I worked my way up from line cook to head of restaurant operations for that group and helped start a couple locations, as well as a sandwich shop here in Portland, Oregon that still exists called Snappy's. Highly recommended if you're ever in the area. Very good sandwiches. And once the pandemic hit, I had a bunch of extra free time, obviously. Didn't know what to do with wanting to be with, to get involved, talk to friends more. And so podcasting kind of seemed like a perfect avenue in order to talk to my friends, be able to interview people. It's something that I didn't really know that I was interested in, but I found a love for it. And it worked perfectly because my specialty was always recording vocals mainly. And so it's just, podcasts are pretty much the same thing. And yeah, so I've worked for a couple different podcasts. I have my own called The Nostalgia Pit, where we look at things through pop culture, the subconscious, music, movies, etc., kind of with a psychological lens. I studied psychology in school, and I've worked for a couple other podcasts. One of them called Cinephobe. They do bad movies is pretty much their specialty. There's one called Uncertain Age, where they do movies about people that are either the aging process or over the age of 50. And the first podcast I ever did was my partner, Selena Flores. She helped write a book called It Did Happen Here that was about some political strifings that happened in the Portland, Oregon scene in the late 90s. Essentially, a foreign exchange student was murdered, and for the anniversary of that, they wrote a book about the whole story and how people in the community came together to push out racism and some of that stuff. So that's how I started with my engineering side of the podcast, and I've just been slowly, sharpening my tools and getting better at this, and highly enjoy it. So, yeah.
Mr. Colin Casserd, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What's the number one mistake new podcasters make when launching their show?
Number one mistake, I think that a lot of people overestimate or underestimate, depending on how you look at it, the needs of the podcast. I think my biggest mistake, I think, first off, and something I'm still working on, is the marketing side of things. Because I just wanted to launch the podcast. Like I said, I love to interview my friends, talk to people. And so I was wrapped up in just making the episode. But there's so many other aspects to the podcast, as any small business owner is familiar with. So I think that just getting everything set up, established, and having that social media presence is very important, and it's one of the most difficult things to do. So I think, social media is one big mistake, or one thing that people miss out a lot on. One thing that I notice is, depending on an audio software that tells you that they can do everything for you, like all the mixing and stuff like that, with kind of just a simple click, sometimes that can be a dangerous game. I know a lot of places, like, we're doing this live right now. So when you're doing a live podcast, it's a little bit different because the editing process isn't the same. But a lot of podcasts are edited and put out, weeks after they've been recorded. And so I think that people should take a little bit more time into looking into the actual editing process. That's my specialty, is the spot editing and stuff like that, pulling out all those little plosives, little imperfections in the sound that people, mouth noises, et cetera, et cetera. I have found that there are certain podcasts that I really want to listen to because the content is great and the people are charismatic and everything like that. But if those sounds or those little moments are too much or too overpowering in comparison to the actual product, it can be kind of distracting and cause some subconscious anxiety in the listener. And so that's the one, I guess I'd say, that's the one thing that is really important. And I think that people could look into a little bit more is rather than just cranking up the compression on a person's microphone, just paying attention to, and cutting out little imperfections and stuff like that. So I think the term is spot editing. Yeah.
Definitely, imperfection is always there. How do you choose the right podcast format for your goals?
Can you elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by podcast format exactly?
Format mean interview, solo, or narrative?
Well, personally for me, I can do the solo. It's a little bit more... it's just a little more lonely. So I kind of like the interview, or in like for my podcast, The Nostalgia Pit, I have a co-host, and it's a lot of just banter back and forth. And so you can kind of play off of each other. So I would say that that's probably my favorite of the formats, is having another person that you can talk to. Interviews are great as well. You get to know people, you get to experience, learn about experiences from all over the world. And so I'm a big fan of the interview. The solo podcast is difficult. I think it's a lot more difficult than any of the other ones, because then all of the content is on you. I don't know. I could get into my own head, if I'm just by myself. So that's why I definitely enjoy bouncing off of another person. So I say having two people that can, you have a good chemistry with, I think is good.
Mr. Colin, what bare bones equipment do you recommend for beginners on a budget?
Well, headphones, number one. There's a lot of people that, a lot more people than I would have thought, don't have headphones. And so when you're interviewing them, they have their computer mic, and I mean, the microphone is also important, but the headphones are almost more important. You can still use your computer mic, or even the mic that comes on your headphones a lot of these days, because a lot of those are actually getting to the point where they're not the greatest broadcast quality microphones like you and I have, but they're also acceptable. So I think headphones is a number one. Typically, I like to have like just a something small that's not overpowering, or not a studio headphone, but I also have my studio headphones here. So I have both. And then a microphone is good. And Personally, I think that spending a little bit more on the microphone is a good investment. I know a lot of people purchase, microphones that say that they can do all the things, but just doing a little bit of research and finding a good microphone is also important. But I'd say those are pretty much your two biggest things, and then just you're going to have to pay a little bit of money on the back end for the hosting services and things like that. So it's good to be aware that you are going to have to spend a little bit of money, but
Yes.
not too much.
Not too much. So let's talk about the technical productions. What's your step-by-step workflow for editing and polish episode?
Yeah, so my co-host, he lives in Everett, Washington. I live in Portland, Oregon. So we record everything just on Zoom right now. I have been looking into other programs like doing Microsoft Teams or which was formerly Skype. I've looked into Riverside. I've looked into StreamYard a little bit. One of the podcasts that I do editing for and production for does their stuff on StreamYard. But Zoom is a good not too expensive method. If you want to go the free route, you can do Microsoft Teams and you can record everything for free. There's a program called OBS, which a lot of live streamers use, especially for Twitch and things like that. And OBS is a free program you can download, and you can record everything on your screen. And using something like Microsoft Teams, you can still have your video aspect too. But so when we're doing it, we record everything on Zoom. Both my co-host and myself, we like to record locally as well, because we've had blips in the past where internet on either their end or my end messes up slightly. And so recording your audio locally and having a digital audio workspace or a DAW is something that's very important to have. Me personally, because of my music background, I use a program called Ableton. And Ableton is great for music production. And so that's what I use. But I know people that use anything from Audacity to GarageBand to QuickTime. Even, you can use a bunch of different programs to just record locally from your microphone directly into your computer. And that will take out some of those digital artifacts that can show up just when the signal is being processed as it's being sent. So typically I will, once the Zoom session is over, I will put those sessions or those files into my Ableton, and then I will match up, just looking at the wavelength where my local file is in conjunction to the Zoom file. And then I will replace the Zoom audio with our local audio. At that point, I go through and I listen to the whole episode. I cut out any large ums or pauses or things like that. So you can kind of have that workflow, that comedic correlation, back and forth type of energies. Like my podcast, we do comedic stuff a lot of the time, doing a lot of things in a satirical sense. And so just understanding comedic timing really helps. So sometimes I'll have to grab something when two people are talking at the same time and slide it over a little bit. Excuse me. Sometimes you got to add 1 second or two of time, and then just and then slide things so that they can breathe out. So I go through and I listen to the whole episode and just spot edit the whole thing, cutting out a lot of the little mouth noises. Like when a person opens their lips up, if their lips are specifically dry, there's these little popping sounds I like to take out, because once again, as I said before, it can cause a little bit of unconscious anxiety and kind of just perturb some people. Some people love ASMR. They love those mouth noises. But personally, I think that it's a little bit distracting. So as I do the spot editing, I'll go through the whole episode. We write our own commercials and do them for fake products. And so rather than just putting a place for a commercial to be put in, I insert the commercials in the session. I expand it all out. I have my intro song, and then I always record my my intro in post-production. And just because after I've listened to the whole episode, I know everything that we talk about, I take notes on what we talked about, and then I can write what the intro is for the song, because in our podcast, we go through a bunch of different topics. For example, in the last one, we do a segment called Song Spelunker, where we'll look into the lyrics of a song, not necessarily the music of the song. So we looked into a 1978 song called Don't Cry Out Loud by Melissa Manchester. Looked into that, and, but of course we go through a bunch of different topics as well. We talked about dinosaurs and the ozone layer and just all sorts of stuff. So I like to take those kind of notes. I make a spreadsheet for everything that I've talked about. And so I can go and research, like I can just go click find and find out what episode we talked about something in. And that's pretty helpful, especially once you get up to a point where you've created a lot of episodes, because there will be a point that you have, you're starting to talk about the same things or forgetting that. So, but after I have edited my episode and did my outro song, my intro, recorded that and everything, I will export those files and then put them into another session where I have my mastering chain put together, which is just a bunch of different compressors. There's a lot of noise cancellation for the background of someone's noise or someone's room. One of the ways that you can do that is there's a lot of pretty good apps these days where you can record or clip a part of a person's recording where they're not talking at all, and there's just that ambient noise that's in the background. And then you can put that into a program, analyze what those frequencies are, cut those frequencies out so a lot of that room noise kind of dissipates and it sounds like they're more in a professional studio. So those kind of things help out quite a bit. And then exporting the master files in MP3s. I do a Patreon version, which is 30 minutes of extra content, as well as a Spotify version. And yeah, so it's a decently, I'd say all in all, post-recording, I am probably working on it for, I'd say 4 to 6 hours of editing, and then the mastering and processing is probably another 2 hours. So I'd say I probably put in 8 hours of post-production for every episode. But that's just something that I like to make sure that it sounds good. And I've worked on many other podcasts for other people that are doing a lot less in the post-production world. And I understand that I have a very technical background. And so a lot of this is not unfamiliar to me. And so it was just an easy thing to just launch into.
Meticulously production, Mr. Colin, and very well said. Beautifully articulated.
Thank you.
So as an audio engineer with over 15 years recording music and over 5 years producing podcasts, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, my short-term goals are kind of, my short-term goals are, I guess, just to get better, just to take on more jobs for people. Right now I'm doing freelance engineering, working for a couple other podcasts as well as doing my own. And my long-term goal would probably be to do this professionally. It's something that I really enjoy. I enjoy, especially if the podcast is something that you enjoy listening to, if the hosts have comedic timing, if they have good chemistry, if it's subject matter that you enjoy listening to, it's, almost not even work. It's kind of something that's fun. So as opposed to working in kitchens, I mean, I love to cook, don't get me wrong, but when you're working in a kitchen, it's difficult to want to cook all day and then come home and cook and make good food. So I've fallen into the trap where in working in kitchens and working long days, I come home and I do not want to cook at all, eat a bowl of cereal or something, some frozen meal or something like that. So my health seems to be quite a bit better when I am doing a job that isn't cooking. Unless, of course, every now and then you work for a restaurant that makes good food and you can bring home food. But so my long-term goal is to, do audio engineering professionally and have it be a full-time job. So
Good luck to your goals,
Thank you.
Mr. Colin, and looking forward for more success. And what
Thank
will
you.
be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a podcast host as well as an audio engineer?
My piece of advice would be to stick to it, right? You're going to start out and it's going to be very fun at the beginning. And then there will be a moment where you'll be like, well, what the heck am I doing? This is getting a lot more difficult, a lot more tiresome. It's taking a lot more energy than maybe I invested. So I would say that just sticking to it, being able to follow up on your path. I mean, I don't think that I really figured out, dialed in my routine until I had done over 50 episodes. Now we're close to 140, I think, like that, of my personal podcast. And then I've done a bunch of other ones for other people. But just sticking to it and allowing yourself the ability to fail. I think that a lot of people, especially nowadays, they have a problem of perfectionism. And I mean, I get it. That's especially in America. That is the society that we are stuck in. But allowing yourself to failure is one of the most important aspects of success. And so allowing yourself to mess up, not beating yourself up, those things are very important, and allowing yourself to grow.
Definitely grow and grow and grow. That is our aim, people. And thank you for that advice. Can you please recommend a book that influenced your journey or books that influence your journey, Mr. Colin?
Yeah. So this book that I have right here, it's called Murder and Mayhem in Goose Pimple Junction. It is written by an author, Amy Metz. And Amy Metz is from Kentucky, if I recall. So this book has a very personal meaning to me. I was recommended it by my aunt before she passed away. But she informed me that there was a traumatic life event that had happened in my family history that no one had ever told me about. And so I think I was in my early 20s at the point when she talked to me about it. So this book is a fictional book, but it is based on a true event that happened in Kentucky in the 1930s. And the event was a man, he witnessed a bank robbery. He told the police who the bank robbers were because he saw the whole thing. He went to court, stood up in court, testified against these bank robbers. And the bank robbers ended up getting out of prison much earlier than was expected. And they were upset still about being, ratted on. And so they decided to seek revenge, and they killed that man. That man was my great-grandfather. And so that event had a large rippling effect that has affected my family. And it is something that, in studying psychology and just having an intuition that I guess I was born with, I always noticed this kind of anxiety, this kind of underlying tension, because I suffered from that anxiety as well. And I was always kind of wondering about it. For example, if I go to my family reunion, it takes a little while to crack the ice, even though we all know each other and things like that. But what happened was my grandmother and her 3 siblings, their father was murdered. And then shortly afterward, their mother was shot in the chest, and their grandmother was killed as a trickle-down result from after the murder. Essentially what happened was the brother of my great-grandfather, I guess that's great-uncle, he professed his love for my great-grandmother. She denied him, and he got upset and shot them in the house. And so essentially my grandmother and her siblings experienced a massive amount of trauma. Now this book is fictionalized as the events surrounding it. So what it is loosely about is a woman, a new divorcee, moves to a small town in the South and moves into a house where she doesn't know, but it's the house of that family, and people are still trying to investigate it. So a bunch of strings come undone, and she starts to learn about this murder, this crime. And yeah, it's a very good book, but it has obviously profound impact on me, just because it is helping to, helping me to understand some of the things that happened to my family and some of the things that they had to go through. And just how it was, in the 30s and 40s, and a lot of people, they don't like to talk about. As part of the reason I started to study psychology as well is because I started to understand that there were these things that didn't want to get talked about, and I didn't really understand what they were. But now that I understand defense mechanisms and coping mechanisms based off of psychology, like sublimation, which is where you take the stressors of your life and you turn it into what society deems as healthy actions, compartmentalization, denial, just a lot of these type of things. It makes sense that when people experience a massive amount of trauma at a formidable time in their life, that they just try to survive however they can. And then they pass down those survival mechanisms and those survival techniques to their family. And while they might have helped them survive, they might have helped them survive, it doesn't necessarily serve the later generations. But all the family can do is pass down what they know and the solutions and tactics that helped them to get to where they were and to be successful. So I'd say, it's a good book. It's well written. The fictionalization is well done, as well as, the crime that it's based on is very fascinating. Maybe it's just to me because it is something personal in my life, but I found the book very well.
Thank you so much for recommending that book, Mr. Colin. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, and my book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in 3rd season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its 4th season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Colin, what's production hack you've learned that save your hours of work?
Production hack that's helped me save hours. Learning just key shortcuts, like when I'm on Ableton, for example, there are things like cut time, add time, just like really learning your program, learning any of the shortcuts that are developed in it. There's also digital Bluetooth or wired mouses that you use, for your clicking and everything on your computer. You can get them like gaming mouses that have a lot of different buttons on them. And those buttons you can map to be specific complex key combinations. And if you use something like that, you can actually save quite a bit of time rather than doing, Command Shift X, just all of these little shortcut keys. Yeah. You could just click a button on your mouse and do all of that. And you can save quite a bit of time if you're doing spot editing and stuff like that. So I'd recommend looking into, just really getting to know the program you're working with. And then potentially, once you get good at it, getting a gamer mouse,
Yes. Mr. Colin Casserd, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, please, or watching this, please check out the Nostalgia Pit. It's available anywhere you find your podcasts. Our goal is to look at the subconscious, psychology, pop culture, etc., through, a hyperbolic and prismatic lens. We do things with a lot of humor and also a lot of seriousness. But me and my co-host Rob Snow, we have great chemistry. I think that we're doing a really good thing. And so if you are a 90s, 80s, 70s baby, perhaps, and you have, pining for nostalgia,
Yes.
or also, modern pop culture, you can check that out. We also have a Patreon if you want to go support us. We do extended episodes there. And yeah, if you ever need audio engineering, feel free to contact me through the Nostalgia Pit. So
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Colin Casserd, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, more and more empowering advocacy, and for sure, more and more empowering podcast coaching to come. So, Mr. Colin, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It was great.
More to come, people. See you soon.